I'm Alex Rondiner, and welcome to If History is Any Guide, the political and current affairs program on Biz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. Even if the court had not found Andrew Bolt to be in breach of the Act, the content of the articles themselves show that he is, in fact, a racist. We need to be clear about this. The substance of racism is always in the content of the issue, not in what a legal professional dictates. Even if the Act is changed by the Abbott government, thereby making the article no longer in breach of the law, the content of the articles are still and always will be racist. In those two now infamous articles, Bolt implicitly argues that the phenomenon and status of Aboriginality has nothing to do with culture, religion, language, tradition, art, history, etc., etc. Every reasonable factor that Aboriginal people have that identifies them as a common people, i.e. as Aboriginal, is sneered at him implicitly as nothing but primitive savage practices. Bolt behaves much like the schoolyard bully who takes great pleasure at mocking those around him who are different, strange and weird. Because the culture and practice and identity of Aboriginality is different and identifiably separate from the culture of mainstream white Australian society, it must therefore be constantly disregarded, derided and criticised. The process is designed to encourage assimilation. Anyone who is outside white society is subject to disapproval because their being different is labelled as being hateful and disruptive and divisive. But such disapproval is halted from the time when that people allow themselves to be absorbed into the dominant social group within the national society and polity. Divisiveness is curtailed via censure, and a consensus is brought about via bullying and intimidation. So, as was said before, Aboriginality apparently, according to Bolt, has nothing to do with language, culture, religion, or tradition. Instead, it's only about skin colour. Blacks are Aboriginal, whites are non-Aboriginal. End of story. This is a kind of narrow, one-sided logic that you would expect from a preschooler, not from an adult. I'm not surprised that people from the right wing would think in such primitive fashions. They have been unable to achieve higher order thinking. It's the symptom of a people that is so deeply trapped within their own little world, unable to empathise with their neighbours, unwilling to imagine what differences must be like, and so content is judged only on the most shallow and surface of criteria. The right wing are such unattractive people. Further, Bolt reproduces the Hansonian claim that Aboriginality is most commonly used as a social security scam. The Aborigines use their indigenous status in order to get stuff for free from the government, taking it off us hard-working, honest white people. This myth has long been pervasive in right-wing white circles, despite the fact that not a shred of genuine evidence has been produced that comes close to such claims. Instead, this is actually about resisting the efforts of affirmative action, doing everything in their power to prevent Aborigines from being given justice and decency for the centuries of misery and suffering under which they've lived. But if Aboriginality is mostly just a social security scam, then the act of someone claiming such the status must be the active intention of claiming such unwarranted and ill-gotten benefits. We must therefore be skeptical and critical towards all those who claim themselves to be Aboriginal. But further than that, anyone who is white-skinned but claims to be Aboriginal has to be engaging in a social security scam. They are rorting the system, taking advantage of a benefit that isn't rightfully theirs. It then becomes an open game for the right wing going after white-skinned Aborigines, pouring the most crude and rude forms of investigation into their conduct and lives. The Marcia Langton example is further evidence to this case. Bolt took it for granted that Aboriginality is about being black-skinned because he has come to the conclusion that that is the only criteria possibly relevant for Indigenous people. It's therefore important for him to place such an issue as a dog whistle disclaimer. Someone who isn't white-skinned and claims to be Aboriginal is to be treated with suspicion, distrust, and a critical, skeptical eye. And that's why the High Court was right to determine that Andrew Bolt had breached the Act and that his articles were indeed racist. And that's all the time we have for today. You've been listening to If History is Any Guide, the political and current affairs program on Biz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm Alex Rondonen. Until next time, goodbye.